All right, it is currently 6:11 on this Sunday, the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. You're listening to the 6-8 with DJ Eclectic here on WQBR Eagle Radio. I'm your host, Chris. Thanks for tuning in and listening, and dealing with my slight 10-minute delay. It's 2 weeks in a row. I have no idea what's going on. Luckily, we do have a station meeting tomorrow, so I guarantee you that my next show is going to start on time. That's something I can tell you guys now. So, it's winter, I've realized. It's finally actually winter here in Michigan. A very, very cold, miserable week. Almost all week. It was the kind of weather where you don't do anything. You just, kind of stay indoors and just, be a bum. Or if you're a college student like I am, wish you could stay inside and be a bum. But, yeah, I mean, I guess it's okay that it's finally winter because it's meant to be winter. But it's a very, very drastic shift from the last 2 weeks. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to news and our first check of weather. What happened when Michigan legislature tried to ban blowjobs and butt stuff? And why should you never try to play with a gun while riding a hoverboard? All that and more when we come back. Now, because today is Valentine's Day, all of the music today is themed for you lovebirds out there listening. Here is AC/DC, You Shook Me All Night Long. You're listening to the 6-8 with DJ Eclectic here on WQBR Eagle Radio. There you go. That was Classic by MKTO, a song I was introduced to about a year ago, right around this time. Before that was Lone Star's Baby, I'm Amazed by You. Remember, like I said before the break, all of this is Valentine's Day type music. And as you could tell from that little block, there are a few different ways to enjoy the day, enjoy the feelings, the emotions. Okay, jumping right into news. If you were on the internet at all this week, you know exactly what this first story is. It broke the internet, and it was kind of misreported because the wording was weird. Then there was an article that came out later that kind of was like, no, this is the way it actually is, and it was just a huge mess. So basically, there was this bill that was an anti-animal cruelty bill that would keep convicted animal abusers from adopting or owning for up to 5 years after their sentence, should they get out of prison. And the bill was kind of reworded recently, and taken wrongly, because again, the wording was really weird and just it exploded. So the original article is from the New Civil Rights Movement. And the headline is, Michigan Senate passes bill saying sodomy is a felony punishable by 15 years in prison. Now, the subtitle is, Lawmaker says removing sodomy ban would kill an important animal protection bill. And like I said, this did start out as, anti-animal cruelty, but it was reworded in a way that made it seem like it was now targeting people of same-sex relationships as well as heterosexual relationships. So the gist, I'm not going to get into the wording because, like I said, the wording was a big problem. People were reading the wording, and it's very, very misguided. When you read it seems like the wording is very, very misguided, and it kind of misses the mark a little bit. But the gist is, anal and oral sex are both now punishable for not just animal cruelty cases, but for same-sex and different-sex couples in Michigan. Punishable as a felony for up to 15 years. And you know everything that comes along with, you know, being a recognized felon. You know, all of the stigmas and all of the negativity that comes along with that. Now, the problem with this, and it's tackled in this MLive article that came out 3 or 4 days after the new civil rights movement article came out. It starts off by saying anal sex not banned in Michigan despite what you've heard. And this kind of, you know, calms the storm. And I say kind of, it absolutely calmed the storm. And to be fair, I did see the NCR article, and I did report it in my radio and television news class as, like, this bill is going down. Because, like most people, the wording kind of gets to you, and it's very hit and miss depending on who reads the article and when they read and how they read it as to whether or not they understand what's actually going on. But this article says that while it's technically illegal under state law to have anal and oral in Michigan, it's a very, very antiquated law that is not enforced. And in 2003, the Supreme Court said that enforcing laws like that is unconstitutional. In 2003, a case was struck down under the same thing. And this law, this idea, isn't unique to Michigan. Michigan is one of, I think, a dozen and a half or so states that have laws like this, and they're all kind of wrapped up in these different bills that makes it really, really difficult and really tricky to kind of, you know, strike them from the books. And what the NCR article does go into is that striking the anal and oral section from the bill puts the entire thing in jeopardy, because it did start as an anti-animal cruelty bill, and, you know, that's okay. So this law, while technically at the state level it is illegal, the federal government has you know, officially said, yeah, no, this doesn't mean anything. It's very unconstitutional for any state to enforce this. We're nullifying it right now. They did that in 2003 in, I'm going to try and find the case here. Lawrence versus Texas was the case in 2003. The Supreme Court tossed nationwide sodomy laws that criminalize consensual homosexual sex, tossed those sodomy laws out. So at the federal level, it's not an issue, but at a lot of the different state levels, it's wrapped up in all of these different bills and all of these different laws, you know, like most legislature is. It's just a mishmash of ideas where people who want a certain thing in will, you know, kind of weave their own web to make sure it gets in there and stays in there, where it's not as easy as, okay, that's unconstitutional, let's take that out. You know, it puts the greater bill in jeopardy. And because this is an anti-animal cruelty bill, personally, I'm completely okay with them not trying to strike it from the books, so long as everybody knows to not overreact to this, that it's unconstitutional, it's an antiquated law like it is in the dozen and a half or so other states, that it can't be enforced and you're not going to get in trouble for it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I did report the NCR article because I did believe what it said, and I did believe that, you know, that it was an active, I don't want to say threat, but it was an active and enforceable bill. Now, of course, I saw the MLive article as soon as it came out, and it cleared a lot of things up. I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to worry about it. So one of the quotes in this MLive article is actually a big reason why they can't actually take out the words mankind from the bill, because the bill says anybody who, I don't remember the exact wording, but it says anybody who commits this detestable act with mankind or with beast is to be charged with a felony. And they can't take mankind out because it would affect sodomy as rape, sodomy on children, and the Republican Senator Jones said he's not about to, go and try and legalize pedophilia. So, I understand I understand why the term mankind is in there. I understand why it's necessary, but I do also understand why when an article like this is published, because, the wording was updated recently. I understand, people absolutely freaking out. I was one of those people who freaked out. But yeah, absolutely 100% nothing to worry about. Go ahead and do whoever, whenever, however you want, as long as it's consensual and not in public. Nobody's gonna, bust into your door and arrest you. Okay, so from one weird news story to another, this one out of Florida, surprise, surprise, there's some headlines that I read where I really have to judge whether it's legitimate or not, and I don't go by the site, I go by the headline. The headline for this reads, "Teen fatally shot by cousin on hoverboard." Remember, this is out of Florida. So what happened is an 18-year-old was riding his hoverboard. I'm sure you've all seen the hoverboards that aren't actually hoverboards because they have wheels, but whatever. The same ones that will catch fire and explode. He was playing with, I believe it was his father's gun. Yeah, he found his father's gun in the bedroom, the 18-year-old did, and started playing around with it. Riding his hoverboard, he lost his balance on the hoverboard, and because he's a jackass and playing around with this gun, he shoots his 13-year-old cousin in the back of the head while the cousin wasn't looking and playing Xbox. He was playing video games, and his 18-year-old cousin fell off his hoverboard and shot his cousin in the back of the head. The gun was owned by... The owner of the gun wasn't home at the time. He was arrested later on charges of possession of a weapon by a felon. But just absolutely insane. Leaving a gun around for anybody to find it. I feel like that's gun storage, safety, common sense, no duh 101. You put the gun where you know where it is, but nobody else knows where it is, and if they do know where it is, they can't get it. Apparently this gun was kind of just out loose in the bedroom. And then, even if you... Okay, so let's say you fail in that department. You don't hide the gun, everyone knows where it is, it's easily attainable. You tell your kids and your younger nephews and nieces to not play with the flippin' gun. Especially at 18. And of course by 18 it should be common sense that, you don't pick up a gun unless you're looking to use it to defend yourself. You don't play around with guns, period. And you especially don't wave it around while there's another person not looking at you. And this 13-year-old was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. Because his 18-year-old cousin was playing with a gun and shot him. Fell off the hoverboard. It's bad enough if you accidentally shoot someone while your feet are on the ground. That's one that's one kind of moron. To find a gun, to be, playing around with it, and you shoot your cousin. That's one kind of moron. But to take the gun that you're messing around with and get on a hoverboard? First off, it doesn't matter to me how proficient you are at riding a hoverboard. Under no circumstances are you to take a gun, even if it's your own gun, and get on this thing. So it's one kind of moron to be playing around with a gun while your feet are on the ground. It's a whole nother level to get on basically a Segway without handlebars while playing around with a gun. Because then not only could you accidentally fire the gun, but you could easily fall off, like this kid did, and either shoot yourself or shoot somebody else. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. And like I said, with all the weird, bizarre news to come out of Florida, I'm not surprised at this out of Florida. No offense to anybody who, is from Florida or has any family there. But if it's not Detroit, it's either LA or Florida that you get all of this weird, bizarre news. So yeah, 13-year-old dead because his 18-year-old cousin was messing around with a gun while riding a hoverboard. Just so sad and so unnecessary. And not just unnecessary, completely 100% avoidable. Even from the start of purchasing the gun. Because the gun owner was a felon. That's what he was arrested for a few days after this happened. He was arrested on charges of possession of a firearm by a criminal, or by a felon. So even going that far back, this could have been avoided. But then you teach your kids and your nephews and nieces and anybody young and impressionable who will come through your house at some point. You tell them, you see that gun, you don't touch that gun. You're not allowed to touch that gun. And obviously that failed. And then at 18 years old, it should be 100% common sense to not play with guns, A, and B, to get on anything that will move you around that you can fall off of while playing around with a gun. So it's just a tragic and completely avoidable waste of life. But you know what? I'm glad this happened and made the news so that it can hopefully never happen again. Because obviously, common sense doesn't exist. You need something avoidable and tragic to happen so that you can make sure it doesn't happen again. It's sad that that's the world we live in, but, leading by example is apparently far more useful than leading by common sense. Okay, on to a check of weather. Like I said at the top of the show, this week was very much stay in your house, don't go outside, be a bum, it's too flippin' cold to go outside. It was miserable. Most mornings I was waking up and while the temperature may have been in the positives, it felt like it was, 2, 3, 4 below. It's like, oh, I have to walk across campus to class today. Brilliant. And it looks like we're going to warm up, not a whole lot this week, but we are going to warm up. Tomorrow we're looking at snow showers, less than an inch of accumulation. I assume it's going to be like the snow we had this week, and just stick to grass and trees and stay off the roads, which, if it has to snow, I prefer it snow like that, because then nobody drives like an idiot. Walking isn't a hassle either. So tomorrow, less than an inch of accumulation, 34 degrees with a low of 25. Tuesday, mostly cloudy, small chance of rain, high of 37, low of 25. Wednesday, partly cloudy, dry most of the day, high of 31, low of 10. Thursday, 100% clear, but it is going to be, only a high of 29. So I'm assuming that's going to be the day where it looks nice, but that's going to be the day where you just want to stay inside and do nothing. Friday, we're jumping all the way up from 29 to 52 for a high. Small chance of rain, partly cloudy with a low of 37. Saturday and Sunday are both mid to upper 40s, mostly cloudy with a small chance of rain on Sunday. So kind of a mixed bag of weather, but we are only supposed to get snow one day, which at less than an inch you figure is going to be mostly, it's going to be a lot of grass and tree snow, which is the best kind of snow. Doesn't stick to the roads, doesn't stick to the sidewalks, but everything gets to look nice and pretty because it's February and Lord knows we didn't get enough snow in December, or January for that matter. All right, we're going to take another quick break here. When we come back, we're going to be talking about how technology is changing the all-important pregnancy announcement. And the Star Wars production company is now in heat over Harrison Ford's broken leg. You're listening to the 6-8 with DJ Eclectic. I'm your host, Chris, on WQBR Eagle Radio. And here is Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye. That was I Wanna Love You by Akon, following Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard. It is currently 6:58 on this Sunday, the 14th of February. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you for tuning in to the 6-8 with DJ Eclectic. I am your host, Chris. So, in this world we live in, this 21st century, technology everywhere world we live in, I personally know a lot of people who think that technology should stay out of the most private facets of our lives. We shouldn't have cameras or phones that constantly record our every word. Or we shouldn't have people who can tap into the front and back facing cameras and be able to, snap live video of whatever we're doing in front of the cameras. I know a lot of people who will cover the built-in webcam on their laptop and just never use it for that exact reason. So this story I'm about to tell you blows my mind. So everybody knows what the Fitbit is. The Fitbit it almost looks like a watch, and it'll record heartbeat. It's a fitness tool. And you can have a social media profile with it, and see how many calories you've burned, how much weight you've lost, and the older crowd will use it to monitor heart rate for stress, or if you have a history of heart problems, they'll use that to monitor just heart rate. So this story was about a week and a half ago, and it was a post on Reddit, and this guy's wife was showing that this guy's wife's Fitbit was showing that her heartbeat was ridiculously high. Even for her level of activity, it was way too up there. And because of her increased heart rate, the Fitbit translates that to, more time spent burning fat. The Fitbit logged it as 10 hours in what's called the fat burning zone. And based on her activity levels, her husband's like, well, that's not possible. What's going on? The number of calories burned seemed accurate relative to, the time logged. Just nothing was really lining up. And, he's like, well, is there something wrong with the Fitbit? Is there a way to reset it, recalibrate it? And he went to Reddit, r/Fitbit, which, if you've never been on Reddit, every subreddit is kind of a hub of expertise on X subject. Videos, news, gaming, Fitbit. There's one for Apple. There's one for Macs and PCs. So he turned to r/Fitbit first before he went to customer service about a replacement. And, he's like, is there some way to reset it? Is there a problem with the device? And he posted a few pictures, of the charts the Fitbit was recording. And it turns out that this guy's wife was pregnant. He didn't know. She didn't know. The Fitbit knew. This little thing, this fitness tool on her wrist, recorded all of this data, and people took it and it's like, oh yeah, no, she's pregnant. That's what this means. Just by data, before either of them knew, the data showed that she was pregnant. And it's crazy that we're to the point where technology can show you that you're pregnant before people can. And I know, there have been, piss tests, but those aren't exactly the most reliable thing in the world, despite it being the 21st century. And, why would you want to, piss on a stick and go, oh, okay, I might be pregnant then. No, you have this thing that's already regularly integrated into your life as a, fitness connoisseur that will tell you, okay, you're pregnant. And people were finding, random people online on r/Fitbit were finding this just based on the data that the Fitbit was recording. And this guy had no idea. He's like, well, something's wrong with the Fitbit. He said immediately, he was looking into, is there something wrong with the sensor? He has to recalibrate it. Does he have to replace it? No, his wife was pregnant the whole time. And for all of you, I know that there are people who are like, oh, technology, stay out of, the most, the more private, the facet of life you're trying to get into, the more you should stay away from it. If we get more stories like this, I'm all for technology. I'm already all for technology, but, stuff like this where they're, they have something they use regularly and it coming in even more handy than normal, because now, well, of course I am a 19-year-old male, and just based on experience, I should know nothing about pregnancy, but I know that there can be a lot of problems for people who find out that they're pregnant, months and months into their term. There are stories of, people not knowing they were pregnant until, they're 5, 6, 7 months into their term. This little rubber piece of technology on your wrist that is designed to measure your heart rate and how many calories you burn could tell you that you were pregnant before you had to go anywhere or do anything specialized for it. Just crazy, but I'm happy for this guy. I'm glad that he's going to be a father now, and I'm glad that this really shows the internet in a helpful, okay, let's look at this seriously and figure out what's going on here, super friendly, helpful kind of manner. Especially with the story I read you at the top of the show, the internet freaking out about the animal cruelty law. It's night and day between two stories. And he was interviewed on BBC Radio 5 about this happening. And if you want to follow their progress and see what's going on, you can follow along on Instagram and Twitter at BabyFitbit, which I did laugh pretty hard when I saw it. So Yeah, Instagram and Twitter at BabyFitBit if you want to follow this family's journey from finding out that you're pregnant by Fitbit to, being parents. And it looks like they're due in October 2016. So they did catch it very early in the term, which is always beneficial. And while with a piss test or a doctor's visit or something they would have found out anyway, it's nice that they, could go about their daily lives and learn this. And if we get more technology like that, it'd be awesome. All right, moving on to a few stories in entertainment news, which, if you know me, I don't like focusing on much because, it's a lot of fluff news. But we have I'm sure if you, like me, grew up with either of the mediums for the Harry Potter franchise, whether you caught the books as they were first being published, or, you started reading the books once you saw trailers for the first movie, whatever, you grew up with Harry Potter, then you'll know that there is a stage play coming out, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which follows, it's a direct sequel, but 2 decades after the movies left off. It's 19 years later. It's Harry and his son Albus. J.K. Rowling announced that the script for this screenplay is being compiled and published into book form. And it's going to be released this summer. The midnight release is July 31st, which is the day after the play itself opens in London. Now, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is an original story written by Rowling, Jack Thorne, and John Tiffany. The book is compiled by Thorne, and it will be published through Scholastic, which is how all of the Harry Potter books have been published. Now, I'm beyond happy about this. I've been itching to get my Harry Potter fix since 2011, and it may have only taken 5 years or so, but we're finally getting more Harry Potter. The problem is there are a lot of people on the internet that wanted an actual book, not a published, not a repackaged version of a stage play script. And that seems to be the major issue people have with this publication, is the fact that it's not so much a book as it is a... Well, I saw it one... There was one specific way I saw it. It was what was it? It was a hardback script. It was a leather-bound hardback script, is how somebody put it. And it's like, I mean, it's more Harry Potter. Whatever facet, whatever method it's coming to us, it could be book, it could be movie, it could be stage play, which I hope comes to the U.S. soon. It could be just publishing the script for those people who probably won't get to see this stage play at all. They still get to have this. And of course, this is on top of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which will be in theaters at some point this year. I off the top of my head, I can't think of the exact date. Yeah, a lot of people have an issue with this because it's not a novel. They were expecting a novel. There have been rumors abound for 5 years now, since the last movie came out. Because, admittedly, I think there are a lot more people who saw the movies than read the books, and that's a whole different conversation. But there have been rumors abound for, 5.5 years now that, J.K. Rowling's coming up with an 8th novel. There's another novel coming out. And a lot of people want to hold on to those rumors and just deny everything else as existing. But I'm all for it. I'm going to get it, whether ebook or print edition, which are going to be published at the same time, so anybody anywhere can get a copy of this. I'm going to get it in some form or another. But yeah, midnight, July 31st. All of you mark it down in your calendars. The Harry Potter story is continuing. And going from fantasy to science fiction, the production company in charge of Star Wars Episode 7 has been charged over Harrison Ford's broken leg. Now, if that sounds weird to you, it's because it is. Now, as filming of the movie went on, this was back in 2014, Harrison Ford had an accident on set where a hydraulic door on the Millennium Falcon broke and seriously injured Harrison Ford, broke his leg on set. So filming was delayed. They kind of had to, mix some scenes around and just film around it as much as they could. But the hydraulic door on the Millennium Falcon, it broke. It snapped down. Harrison Ford wasn't expecting it. Broke his leg. Everybody admitted that it was an accident. Harrison Ford said, yeah, it's an accident. This is almost 2-year-old news at this point. It's like, okay, it's an accident, this was June 2014, so it was almost exactly 2 years ago. Everyone's like, oh, it's an accident. Harrison Ford's like, okay, yeah, it was an accident. No one intended for me to, get hurt in any way, shape, or form. And they were kind of just went about their business. Even as the movie debuted, there were no like, oh, are you going to press charges? Nothing. Now, British workplace safety authorities are prosecuting the production company over this accident. Foodles Production Limited, which was behind the production company behind The Force Awakens, is being prosecuted by Britain's health and safety executive over 4 alleged breaches of health and safety law, the biggest of which is Harrison Ford's broken leg. Now, here's the thing. Now, while I'll admit that not every set accident should be just brushed off as an accident, if you're looking at after 2 years and no one has given a flying squirrel poop about it, this was June 2014, so we're looking at a year and a half. A year and a half goes by. Nothing. We hear about it at the time. People are like, oh my God, Harrison Ford's leg is broken, filming is delayed, and the biggest thing we were freaking out about was, is this going to push the movie back? 18 months, nothing. Filming is finished, no news about it. Post-production is done, no news about it. Midnight release of the movie, the red carpet, no news about it. Now, February 2016, they're being charged for this accident. And Harrison Ford took this in just such tremendous stride. He acknowledged the accident, which it did require surgery. Shortly after it occurred, he's like, okay, yeah, this is an accident. And he even went so far as to tease J.J. Abrams about what happened during promotional appearances in December. Just everybody kind of took it in stride. Yeah, it was a thing that happened, and yeah, they had to, kind of shift filming and work around it. But nobody was seriously even close to considering pressing charges for it. And suddenly the health and safety exec goes, yeah, no, we're taking you to court. Now, to be fair, the quote from the HSE says, by law, employers must take reasonable steps to protect workers. This is as true on a film set as a factory floor. But there's no reports, there's no evidence of negligence. It was an accident. But the HSE does say, quote, We have investigated thoroughly and believe that we have sufficient evidence to bring the case to court. End quote. Company reps are set to appear May 12th in a court in Buckinghamshire to face the 4 charges. And if this is anything, if the reaction to it happening and the reaction over the past 2 years is indicative of anything, this is just going to lead to, if anything, a small settlement. I can't imagine anything actually massive happening to Foodle's production. I can't imagine anything massive happening because, like I said, this is 18 months ago. This is 18 months of everybody acknowledging it was an accident and moving on. Harrison Ford didn't have any ill will. J.J. Abrams didn't fire anybody because of it. It did kind of mess up production and filming schedules, but that was the brunt of it. That was the extent. No charges, no firing, no ill will, nothing. Harrison Ford joked about it in December. And this was like, the movie is coming out after all this time, and Harrison Ford is making jokes about it. And suddenly now it's an issue. Which I don't understand from even just a basic standpoint, but I'm assuming because it's the British HSE and this is right up their alley, I'm assuming they have some angle on it that people not in those positions would ever really understand without deep research. But I can't see this going really anywhere important, anywhere massive. But yeah, just weird. Weird and really, really late to the party. Like, okay, I'd understand if this happened, in late July or August. If it took a month and a half to investigate thoroughly, and it's like, okay, we have enough to take you to court, I'd understand that. I'd feel way worse for J.J. Abrams because now his production company is going to court over this accident that happened. But they went through the whole production process, the whole post-production process, the entire movie debut process with nothing. Mid-February, let's do something about it. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Okay, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we'll get to the last bit of news, last check of weather, and some sports. Very, very good news for Eastern Michigan sports, finally. You're listening to the 6-8 with DJ Eclectic. Here is Warrant's Cherry Pie. And there you go. That was Open Arms by Journey, following Can't Sleep Love by Pentatonics off of their latest album. One of my more recent favorites from the group. Okay, it's currently 7:29 on this Sunday, the 14th of February. Happy Valentine's Day to all you lovebirds tuning in and listening to the 6-8 with DJ Eclectic. I'm your host, Chris. So, got your second check of weather coming up, along with sports and the final bit of news, among which Krispy Kreme challenges, women being dead in Walmart parking lots, and plenty of other weirdness that will make your head spin. I guarantee it. Okay, so we had I don't want to say moderate week. It was moderate for mid-February. It was when it was the coldest days was when it was sunny and at night, obviously. Wasn't a whole lot of snow, but mostly, kept to the grass and kept out of the way of important things like driving and walking to school. Next week is going to be kind of a mix of that. Monday is actually our only chance of snow, less than an inch, high of 34, low of 25. Tuesday is going to be overcast with just a slight chance of rain, high of 37, low of 25. Wednesday is going to be partly cloudy, high of 31, low of 9. Thursday is the coldest we're going to get, with a high of 29 and a low of 22, though it is going to be nice and sunny that day. Friday, we have another chance of rain, just slightly more than Tuesday, partly cloudy, high of 52, low of 38. That's going to be the warmest day this week. Saturday and Sunday are both mostly cloudy, with highs in the mid to upper 40s. Sunday, there's a slight chance of rain. So, again, we're in winter, but this rain means, we are kind of moving from February into April. Hopefully we get more rain than snow, because while I don't like either of them, rain means it's going to start getting warmer, and I'm a fan of warmer. Alright, now to the check of sports for the night, starting off with some good news for fans of Eastern Michigan sports. We managed to beat Kent State 75-70 after beating Central. Huge. We're up to 13-12 overall, 5-7 in the conference. We are currently in 5th place, but there are ties for 1st and 2nd. Central is a place above us. Western is a place below us. Our next game is against Ohio in Ohio, Tuesday night at 7. The Pistons lost to Denver 103-92. Morris led the Pistons with 19 points. Drummond had 17 rebounds. The next game is Friday night against the Wizards at the Verizon Center. And the Red Wings, after the battle of offense and the battle of who has less defense, 0-0 for defense, Red Wings beat the Boston Bruins 6-5 in probably the highest scoring hockey game in the past 20 years. Joking, obviously, but that's hockey for you. Our next game, the Red Wings' next game, is tomorrow night against the Islanders in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So, nice and exciting. Congratulations to Eastern Michigan, who seems to be picking up and hopefully a nice winning streak, because we need some positivity for the team. Okay, now here's something I bet you didn't know about. There is such a thing as a Krispy Kreme challenge. It was held in North Carolina this past weekend. It's a 5-mile race. You run halfway, stop at a Krispy Kreme, pick up a dozen donuts, eat the donuts, and run back. And surprise, surprise, 58-year-old runner who has not yet been named dropped dead. He began having chest pains at the start of the race and quit within the first mile. He did not make it to the donut eating portion. He was taken to a hospital where he later died. Remember when I said that we had some news that was going to make your head spin? Yeah, Krispy Kreme challenge. The race doesn't sound as bad as other races. You have the 10K, the 20K, huge marathons. It's a 5-mile race there and back. But you have to eat Krispy Kreme donuts, which I hear a lot of people complaining about being one of the places to go for the worst. Their donuts are the worst for you that a lot of people have had. And Krispy Kreme took that reputation and slid it into a 5-mile race. And unfortunately, a 58-year-old man died because of it. Moving from North Carolina to California, to a Walmart in California, so this is going to be a high-class story. No offense, Walmart, but that's the joke. Body of a missing California woman likely sat in a Walmart parking lot for months before anybody noticed. That is I'm not making this up. That is the beginning of this USA Today article I'm looking at right now. According to security footage, back in November, a woman's car pulled up into a parking spot in the Walmart lot and just sat there. The toxicology results are still pending. We haven't gotten them back yet. But, it's rumored and it's believed that it was a suicide. So the body of this woman sat dead in her car in the same spot for months. This is from mid-November to, mid-February. She sat dead in her car in the same spot that didn't move in 3 months. In just this Walmart parking lot in California. Monterey County. The car had tinted windows, didn't appear out of the ordinary, and the security camera footage of the parking lot showed that the car had parked there and just sat there. Wednesday afternoon, employees began to look into the vehicle after 3 months, which, 2 months too late, I guess. They saw the body inside and called the police. The body was reportedly badly decomposed and obviously had been there for some time. They're assuming most of the 3 months it had been there. So, yeah, just like I said, it's a story out of a Walmart parking lot, so it's going to be super, super high class. Okay, now here's one that will kind of go back a bit. So back in 2012, an Alabama woman was convicted of murder back in 2012. She was sentenced to life without parole for the death of her granddaughter, who was reportedly forced to run around the family's house for 3 hours straight because, this is very, very important, the 9-year-old lied about taking a chocolate bar. Forced by her crazed grandmother to run around the house for 3 hours. The child was crawling, crying, and begging to stop running. A state pathologist back in 2012 ruled the girl's death a homicide. She was extremely dehydrated. No duh. And Joyce Garrard was sentenced to life without parole. She was just recently found dead in prison. I'm not sure which one she was in Wetumpka, Alabama. The cause of death is still not available. She collapsed last week in the prison, was airlifted to a hospital where she died 5 days later. And like I said, as of right now, we don't know the cause of death. But, come on. Really? Like, in the world we live in now, smacking a kid is seen as way over the top and way overblown, which, spoiler alert, it's not. I'll talk to anybody from my generation. But to have your 9-year-old granddaughter run around the house endlessly for 3 hours because she lied about taking a chocolate bar? Like, I don't think my parents would have even escalated it to the point of smacking me for doing that. I probably would have gotten a stern talking to and sent to my room for the night. But for lying about taking a Hershey's bar, I don't think, I would have gotten smacked for that. And this poor girl was run to death by her obviously not right in the head grandmother. Yeah, just, I don't know, man. I want to believe that the world is a safe place. But it's little stories like this where somebody can just snap and lose her mind and kill a 9-year-old girl for really no reason. Like I said, she lied about taking a chocolate bar and was sentenced to run to death. Died of extreme dehydration. And as cold as this is about to sound, thankfully, the grandmother who did this is dead. Now, just looking at this woman, I have a picture of her. I have her mugshot pulled up, and a picture of her from her court hearing. She doesn't look like the kind of person who would have been able to hold out for a long time in prison. So I can only imagine it was either suicide or natural causes. I want to go ahead and say natural causes just based on how unhealthy this woman looks. She looks like she could have come in first in the Krispy Kreme challenge years in a row. Speaking of fat people, McDonald's is in the news again. Probably for one of the grossest stories I've read all month. All year, actually. Yeah, this tops my list of gross for 2016. So, everybody remembers as a kid, or for those of you who had Happy Meals as a kid, how awesome the Happy Meal was. You know, it wasn't a whole lot of food, but you got a toy with it. The bag was always designed to look like the toy. It usually had some activities on it. Or the one I'm looking at in the picture had, cardboard punch-outs. Happy Meals were fun. They weren't necessarily healthy in any way, shape, or form, but they were good. So, this woman, Jennifer Lovedoll from Anchorage, Alaska, had a Happy Meal from roughly midday on January 8th, 2010. Okay? 6 years. 6 years and a month. And the film advertising was Alvin and Chipmunk's The Squeakquel, if that helps you put it into more perspective. This was around that time. And it doesn't look any different in any way, shape, or form. It hasn't changed a bit, except for the grease stains on the receipt, and obviously the outside of the box. None of the food looks different. I'm looking at this, and taking the picture on the right out of context, I'd have guessed she just bought it. And no, that's not an exaggeration at all. The picture of the food, the 6 chicken nuggets and the bag of fries, looks like she just bought it. She made a Facebook post, quote, "It's been 6 years since I bought this Happy Meal at McDonald's. It's been sitting at our office this whole time and is not rotted, molded, or decomposed at all. It smells only of cardboard." End quote. She said she did the experiment to show her patients how unhealthy this, she uses quote unquote food is. And then she does go on to say, choose real food, apples, bananas, carrots, celery. Those are real fast food. But the weird thing is McDonald's had a response to this. McDonald's actually had, from their FAQ section, which is frequently asked questions, meaning this comes up often enough for them to put an answer in a section dedicated to, okay, you guys keep asking for it, let's go ahead and give an answer. It says, quote, "Food needs moisture in the air for mold to form. Without it, food will simply dry out, sort of like bread left out on a counter overnight to make croutons for stuffing. You might have seen experiments which seem to show no decomposition in our food. Most likely this is because the food has dehydrated before any visible deterioration could occur." End quote. That means that so long as you keep your bag or box completely closed up, McDonald's is like the Twinkie of fast foods. McDonald's, so long as you keep everything shut and don't allow moisture in, McDonald's can and will live forever, which is an absolutely terrifying thought. Absolutely terrifying thought. But this picture does seem to be legit. And despite it, now, scientifically, I'm about to come off as a huge fast food supporter, which I'm not. But scientifically, I believe the McDonald's response, is in the clear. You do need moisture for things to decompose. It's why bodies in coffins take longer to decompose than bodies put out in the forest. It's the same science. So while I believe McDonald's statement is true, it doesn't mean it's good. For them to have to explain why their food doesn't decompose and exactly why it will be permanent and how you can make their food last forever, like the fact that they have something in their frequently asked questions section about this, just it makes my head hurt and it makes my stomach hurt. It really does. Because that means that, there have been enough people to ask about it for McDonald's to go, okay, well, here's the reason why. And they put it in a section accessible from their main page that explains it. It really does make my... I'm sick to my stomach right now. Honestly. Just... I don't know. I mean, that's why I've done my best to cut that kind of food out of my diet entirely. Yeah, so like I said, a lot of weird news. Alright, that's actually going to do it for the show. I know this seems a little early, but I did kind of want to make the focus of this show more, valid. It's for the same reason that I have, a lot of the music, all of the music being, kind of Valentine's Day and, be with your significant other and, the person you love and kind of, just be with them and tell them that you love them. So I have some more music to play for you guys, but that is going to do it for the talk portion of this show. Right now we have a block of Ricky Martin, and after that is going to be Forever in Love by Kenny G. And before I start playing the music, doesn't matter where you are, find the person you love, bring them close, and tell them you love them, and make sure that they know it.